Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of High Forces, also known as Crisis Route, an action thriller from 2024 that stars Andy Lau. It was directed by Oxide Pang, who is most well known as a director of horror films such as The Eye, and this is a co-production between Hong Kong and China. So Gao Haojun, played by Andy Lau, suffers from mania. Once, during a traffic jam, a severe episode led to a car accident that caused his daughter to lose her eyesight. Haojun's condition did not improve, and later, he was even detained for fighting. His family fell apart. His wife left him, taking their daughter with her, and leaving this man overwhelmed with guilt. Years later, he rebuilds his life as an international security expert. And on the maiden flight of the airline's Airbus A380, he unexpectedly crossed paths with his ex-wife and daughter as he boards this luxurious aircraft. Unfortunately, during the flight, 12 hijackers seized control of the plane and its passengers at an altitude of over 10,000 feet. Yes. The only reason I watched this movie is because it was an action movie with Andy Lau and Oxide Pang was involved as director. I actually did not know it was a hijacking movie at first until I looked up the plot synopsis immediately before watching it. And I'll be honest, I never get excited for this subgenre of action flick because, we've seen this thing a million times already and there's very little room for creativity in an airline hijacking movie. So you could say that, for subgenres of action film that I love, like Girls with Guns or atmospheric urban action thrillers, you can make the same criticism, but just the restriction of having almost your entire film set inside of an airplane in the air has such high restrictions that it almost immediately becomes a problem for me. I'm almost immediately getting bored, as soon as the plot's set up. But with that said, the opening scenes are fast-paced here. They summarize things very quickly, keep things moving. Andy's past and the new Airbus airplane are introduced, and this plane is very spacious and high-class looking. Unfortunately, one of my criticisms presents itself during the early moments. The entire premise of this film is based on this massive coincidence, right? Andy Lau and his ex-wife and daughter just so happen to be on the same plane flight that just so happens to be the target of terrorism or whatever, right? So it's whatever, you know what I mean? The characters are lacking in personality and attitude, which also makes things feel even more generic. So this is not a movie that's going to win you over with its script writing. I was hoping, though, because they make a point of showing this at the beginning, I was hoping that they would explore this manic disorder of our protagonist. Almost like if you've seen the movie Crank with Jason Statham, which revolved entirely around him having to keep his adrenaline and heart rate up and stuff. That would have added some flavor to this movie, but they don't really do anything with it, which was kind of disappointing. The main conflict ramps up about the 30-minute mark. It actually kicks off with a neat little plot turn that I did not see coming. Probably the best scene in the movie, and it's a dramatic thriller type scene, because you're not really sure who the bad guy is yet. After that scene, though, this is predictable stuff. The number of bad guys on the plane is a bit high for realism, but, similar to many other hijacking movies out there, no big deal. I do like the secret communications between Andy's character and his daughter, using a set of, toys, I think they were. They had little walkie-talkies in them. The villains are sufficiently evil and merciless, and they have no problems killing passengers. So, some good stuff for an action flick, okay, so far. In spots. I feel like High Forces would have been better if it committed itself to either being an over-the-top action flick or a legitimate suspense thriller. Instead, it kind of dabbles a little bit in both and doesn't really excel at either. There are actually a bunch of hand-to-hand fights in this movie. And I gotta say, the editing during these fights is pretty crap, and it becomes a serious problem. The first fight is in this cargo hold, and it has a few cool little moves and cool little camera shots, but it is severely over-edited with too many close-up camera shots. Very spastic, and if you really try to track what's happening, it's like hurts your eyes a little bit, you know? Not good. And the subsequent fights basically have the same problem. Yeah. The death scenes are pretty good in this. Like at the end of each of these fights, there's usually a pretty good kill at the end, with a few good finishing maneuvers from Andy against the bad guys. But I would say which arguably the worst part of this movie could be the finale, which is legitimately boring and unsatisfying. It has certain big bombastic moments in it, but the generic nature of everything has eaten away at your attention span, and the entertainment value continues to plummet at this point. And the filmmakers make a critical error by tossing in a metric ton of terrible CGI effects during this finale, and a few ridiculously stupid moments. There's a plane landing scene that like finishes all this off, as you might expect in a movie like this, but it's way too drawn out. And I was done with this movie with about 20 minutes left before it ended. So I cannot recommend High Forces. I mean, it's available streaming on Fandango at home if you're really curious, but I would skip this. And Oxide Pang, does have some good movies. I enjoyed even The Big Call. Was the last movie of his that I really enjoyed, but I looked at it. That movie came out in 2017. It's been a while, and it's probably his most entertaining film since 2007, folks. So, I consistently defended this director's films that were made after The Eye. I felt like The Eye gave the Pang brothers, which he's one half of, a lot of legitimacy and critical acclaim, but everybody slept on the films they made immediately after, many of which I think are more entertaining than The Eye, especially the ones that came out between 2004 and 2007. I mean, this director especially was on a hot streak for about half a decade there. But nowadays, he just seems to be making uninspired fluff. So, that is a shame. But, as always, folks, I'll see you next time.